Since, for, from, during. These words can be really tricky to use in English, and they can be used in multiple ways. I'm still learning the Czech language, and sometimes when I have to say these words in Czech, I often have to stop myself and ask myself if I'm actually using it the right way or the right word at the right time, so I understand the frustration of these words. Today, we'll talk about how to use them in English about time, hopefully make it a little bit clearer and give you a little bit more confidence to use them in everyday life. Hello, I'm Phil from Majak in the Czech Republic. Thank you for joining me. As I said, we'll work with since, for, from, and during, but stick around toward the end of the video. There are 3 bonus phrases I have for you to use with time. Let's start with since. Now, since talks about the duration of something, but it uses a starting point that happened in the past, and it's continuing until now, until today. Just saying that reminds me of the present perfect. You too, right? It's something that happened in the past and it continues until today. So this helps us remember we need to use the present perfect with since. And it can be helpful to remember since plus the starting point. Since plus the starting point. So let's take a look at a few examples now. I've been here since 8 a.m. I've been here since 8 a.m. When did I come? I came here at 8 a.m. So I can say I have been here since 8 a.m. and I'm still here. I have lived here since 2015. I have lived here since 2015. That means I can go back to the year 2015 when I moved here for the first time, and I'm still here. Now in those 2 examples we had 8 a.m. and 2015, 2 exact times or years, but we can also use a different sort of sentence. For example, I have known her since she was a child. I have known her since she was a child. So since some time in her life. It's still a starting point, but it's a little bit broader. Since she was a child. Since she was a teenager. Since she started to work here. Let's move to from. From could seem similar to since, which is part of the problem, because it does express duration. But when we talk about from, we don't have a starting point which is in the past. So if I wanted to use an example that's similar to my first one, I could say, I will be here tomorrow from 8 a.m. I will be here tomorrow from 8 a.m. So somebody could ask me the question, when will you be here tomorrow? I will be here tomorrow from 8 a.m. But I could not say, I'll be here tomorrow since 8 a.m. Can't say that. I'll be here tomorrow since 8 a.m. No. Similarly, in this situation, we can't use the present perfect with it in my example of how long I've been here today. So for example, I could not say, I've been here from 8 a.m. today. I've been here from 8 a.m. I've been here since 8 a.m. So there must be a difference here. But we could say, I've been here since 8 a.m. and now I'm going home. Because the starting point is in the past and we use the present perfect. Let's move on to for. For is another word that's so small, so little, but it's very important and it can be used so wrongly sometimes. So for is also a time word and it talks about duration. And it also talks about a starting point. It's in the past and it continues till sometime. It could continue until now and it could continue only to a point in the past and then it's finished already. And our form with for is for plus the duration of the activity, the duration. So it kind of depends on which tense I use with for as to how I use it and what it looks like. So I have lived here for 1 year. So I have lived here for 1 year means I moved here 1 year ago and I'm still here. I have lived here for 1 year. Now, if I change the tense and I made it just past tense, I could say, I lived there for 1 year. That means sometime in the past, I lived there for the duration of 1 year. I don't live there now because it's not present perfect. I don't still live there, but sometime in my past, I did live there for 1 year. We could also use it in the future tense. he will live in Japan for 3 years. That means they have some plan to go to Japan, and maybe that contract for the job that he has is for 3 years. So the plan is he will live there for 3 years. The important thing about for is the duration. For plus the duration. And speaking of duration, let's use the word during. During. Now, some people pronounce it during. I say during. Maybe that's my good American accent for you, but I know different people pronounce it differently. But during also talks about the duration of something, and it's used with nouns to show that something happens over a certain period of time. So the important thing to remember is during and then the noun. So I could say, he fell during our walk. During what? He fell during our walk. Or he fell asleep during class. When? He fell asleep during class. Okay, I have 3 bonus phrases for you that are really similar to this, and they're lots of fun, but I want to take a deeper moment with this grammar because it's important to think about. Whenever I start to think about this grammar and I use for and since, there is no way to talk about for and since with my own life except to go backwards in my own life and find starting points for how long I've lived in a certain place and how long I've worked at a certain job. And the older I get, the more time seems to be going faster and faster and faster. Maybe you can relate. Probably it doesn't even matter how old you are, what age you are. Time seems to be going faster and faster every day. I still think last year must have been 2009, and that was a long time ago now. As we say in English, time flies, and we start to realize that our time on this earth is limited. We have a certain amount of time to do certain things, and it always leads us to questions. At least it should, I think. Am I using my precious time wisely? Am I spending it with the people that I should? Am I spending it doing the things that I should? Am I spending it doing the things that matter in life? It makes me think about questions like this. And maybe if you haven't thought about those questions, that's okay. But take a minute or two today and just think about those questions. How are you spending your time? And while you're at it, leave a note in the comments about how long you have lived in the place that you have lived. And try to use for and since, make a couple different sentences, and see if you can do that correctly. Bonus time! Here's a few extra phrases for you. The first one is ever since. Ever since. This one just adds a little extra pizzazz to your since. Ever since still emphasizes a point in the past continuing till today and even into the future, but it also emphasizes the idea of excitement, doing some activity often, a little bit more with your since when you use ever since. So I could say, truly, my nephew started playing baseball when he was really young, and he's been playing ever since. And he loves it. He's a great baseball player and he loves to play baseball. And he's been playing it ever since he was a child. It kind of feels like a longer period of time, and the joy and the training and the excitement of doing this activity when we say ever since. Or, ever since she read her first book about horses, she's wanted to ride one as often as possible. It reminds us, it just feels like when she was just a little girl, she started reading about horses and she had this deep love of horses and wanting to ride them ever since. Next, long since. Now, long since is a little bit different. This word means a long, long time ago. And I could use the sentence, in my town there was this beautiful old building, but it's long since been torn down. So using long since in this way, it's long since been torn down, just reminds us that it was a long, long time ago that we could enjoy this beautiful building in our community. And then we have since then. It talks about a certain starting point that continues up into the present. Sounds familiar, right? But it's a different way of saying it, since then. We moved to a new town last year, and since then, everything has been great. Our son started at a new school a couple of years ago, and since then, things are much better. Or negatively, I stopped studying English as much, and since then, my English hasn't been as good. But I know that's not true of you. I know you are finding new ways to learn more English, practice more English, and speak what you know, and that is great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this has brought some hope and help on your English journey. Have a good day.